An unusual confession took place at the White House this morning. Yes, I authorized the CIA, said Trump, with an unexpected revelation during a press conference. Everyone was stunned. Since the Cold War, no American president had so openly admitted the activities of the Secret Service in a foreign country. Just 8 hours later, appearing on television from his palace in Caracas, Maduro was waving a secret document in his hand. I will expose one by one those who are trying to stage a coup against us. So how was the CIA's secret operation network in Venezuela exposed? Who was behind the coup plan? And more importantly, why did the document in Maduro's possession cause alarm bells to ring at the Pentagon? We finally heard the long-awaited statement directly from Trump himself. At a White House press conference, Trump directly answered a journalist's question. Why did you authorize the CIA to enter Venezuela? But watchful eyes noticed subtle changes in Trump's body language, who normally appears confident. The slight tension in his shoulders, the momentary avoidance of eye contact. Clearly, this confession was not planned. Trump said there were two reasons for his authorization to the CIA. Number one, they have emptied their prisons into the United States of America. And the other thing, the drugs. We have a lot of drugs coming in from Venezuela, and a lot of the Venezuelan drugs come in through the sea. Why is this statement so important? Because for the first time in history, a US president openly admitted to the world the say secret operations of secret services that are supposed to be secret. This breaks decades of protocol where presidents maintain what intelligence experts call plausible deniability. The moment sent shockwaves through Washington, with former intelligence officials calling it an unprecedented breach of operational security. Former CIA Director William Stanley told CNN, "This kind of public acknowledgement puts agents at risk and compromises ongoing missions." There's an unprecedented American military buildup in the Caribbean right now. 8 warships, the aircraft carrier USS Gerald Ford, 10 F-35 fighter jets, a nuclear submarine, all deployed near the Venezuelan coast. The USS Gerald Ford is the most advanced aircraft carrier ever built by the U.S. Navy. It typically carries dozens of fighter jets and approximately 4,000 personnel. Until recently, the carrier was docked in Split, Croatia, meaning it will take several days to arrive off the coast of Venezuela. Trump said, "We've got the sea very well under control, but we're looking at land now. So ground operations are also on the table." In the last 6 weeks, at least 6 boats off the Venezuelan coast have been struck by U.S. forces. According to official statements, these boats were trafficking drugs. Trump claimed that after U.S. forces struck the boats, "You see that fentanyl all over the ocean. It's like floating in bags. It's all over the place." However, independent sources claim that some of the boats contained fishermen from Trinidad and Colombia. The Guardian interviewed families in a small fishing village in Trinidad who lost relatives in one of the attacked vessels. Their testimonies directly contradict the official. U.S. statements.UN experts have characterized these attacks as extrajudicial executions and questioned their legality under international law. Hours after Trump's announcement, Maduro appeared on a national television broadcast. Waving the folder he was holding toward the camera, he shouted, "No to regime change! No to CIA-orchestrated coups!" Maduro's words were striking. "Our people are clear, united, and aware. They have the means to once again defeat this open conspiracy against the peace and stability of Venezuela." He went on to assert that Venezuela had been attacked by Nazis between 1942 and 1944 in the Caribbean. He added, under another narrative, "We were attacked by the British Empire. They sent 21 ships, and our people, who had no resources, stood their ground with sticks, stones, knives, and machetes, and we defeated them. We're not stupid, nor will we ever be." Then came an unexpected statement from Maduro. "Thanks to intelligence obtained from a NATO country, we are tracking the movements of CIA agents inside our country step by step," he said. He didn't name the country, but it's known that Venezuela has recently grown closer to Russia and Turkey. Maduro also made a call to avoid war, to tell the people of the United States, no to war. We don't want a war in the Caribbean or South America. So how is Venezuela preparing its defense against America, the world superpower? In his latest press conference, Maduro claimed that Venezuela possesses 5,000 Russian-made Igla-S missiles placed in strategic air defense positions. Any military force in the world knows the power of the Igla-S, and Venezuela has no less than 5,000 of them, Maduro said during an event with military personnel broadcast by Venezolana de Televisión, VTV. The Russian Igla-S missiles are short-range, low-altitude air defense systems similar to American Stingers. Despite being light enough to be carried by a single soldier, they are powerful enough to shoot down a fighter jet. Maduro said the missiles had been deployed even in the last mountain, the last town, and the last city of the territory. Venezuelan state television showed images of military personnel deployed in 9 coastal states and a member of Maduro's civilian militia carrying a Russian Igla-S shoulder-fired anti-aircraft missile. Maduro also claims that his militia forces have more than 8 million reservists. Experts note that this number may be exaggerated, but still acknowledge the existence of a broad civilian resistance network. Venezuela's defense minister, Vladimir Padrino, has been photographed several times with the launchers in Caracas. He added, CIA is present not only in Venezuela, but everywhere in the world. They may deploy countless CIA-affiliated units in covert operations from any part of the nation, but any attempt will fail. Trump's announcement and Maduro's response resonated worldwide. The UN Secretary General called on all parties to exercise restraint and give diplomacy a chance. The Russian foreign minister condemned U.S. attempts to interfere in Venezuela's internal affairs and stated that they were ready to provide any support. The EU expressed deep concern about the escalating tensions and called for a political solution. Regional countries like Brazil and Colombia called for respect for Venezuela's sovereignty while condemning the U.S. threat of military intervention. In the meantime, the U.S. has also put Colombia's leadership in its crosshairs. The U.S. Department of the Treasury slapped sanctions on Colombian President Gustavo Petro, his family, and the South American country's Interior Minister, Armando Benedetti. Friday's decision marked a significant escalation in the ongoing feud between the left-wing Petro and his U.S. counterpart, the right-wing Trump. In a statement, the U.S. Treasury accused Petro of failing to rein in Colombia's cocaine industry and of shielding criminal groups from accountability. The Treasury cited Petro's Total Peace Plan, an initiative designed to bring an end to Colombia's 6-decade-long internal conflict through negotiations with armed rebels and criminal organizations. This is where things get interesting. According to reports in the international press, the Venezuelan government claims to have obtained documents detailing CIA coup plans. According to the claim, the documents in Maduro's possession contain communications between some high-ranking commanders in the Venezuelan army and the CIA. If these documents are authentic, it means that the Venezuelan government was forewarned about CIA operations and developed countermeasures. According to the Washington Post, CIA Director John Ratcliffe was urgently called to the White House and had a long meeting with Trump. No statement was made after the meeting. The New York Times interviewed members of the Trump administration and reported, American officials have been clear, privately, that the end goal is to drive Mr. Maduro from power. The Times noted that Trump has ordered the CIA to carry out lethal operations in Venezuela and added that the Trump administration's strategy on Venezuela, developed by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, with help from John Ratcliffe, the CIA director, aims to oust Mr. Maduro from power. At the core of the Trump administration's strategy toward Venezuela is defining Maduro as a narco-terrorist. In August, a $50 million reward was offered for information leading to Maduro's capture. However, there's a serious problem here. Even the assessments of U.S. intelligence agencies show insufficient evidence linking the Maduro regime directly to drug trafficking. According to the New York Times, Mike Collins, who was at the head of the National Intelligence Council in May, was dismissed for preparing an intelligence assessment, stating that there was insufficient evidence to directly connect the Tren de Aragua gang in Venezuela with the Maduro regime. This detail is important because Trump's justification for using the Alien Enemies Act of 1789 to deport some Venezuelans without due process relies on this connection. The Tren de Aragua, which traces its roots to a Venezuelan prison, is not known for having a big role in global drug trafficking, but for its involvement in contract killings, extortion, and people smuggling. The Trump administration has not yet provided underlying evidence to lawmakers proving that the boats targeted by the U.S. military were in fact carrying narcotics, according to two U.S. officials familiar with the matter. The officials, who were not authorized to comment publicly and spoke on the condition of anonymity, said, "The administration has only pointed to unclassified video clips of the strikes posted on social media by Trump and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, and has yet to produce hard evidence that the vessels were carrying drugs." How are the people of Venezuela reacting to these developments? In central Caracas, a sold-out musical is being performed at the Teresa Carreño Theater. More than 1,000 people gathered for a salsa party in the west of the city. So daily life continues in some way. However, the topic of conversations on the street is the U.S. warships in the Caribbean Sea and the fear of a possible U.S. attack. A political scientist from the University of Havana notes that Trump's statement could help unify Maduro's political base. Maduro is using this crisis to strengthen his anti-colonialist discourse. Carlos Pina, a Venezuelan political scientist, said Trump's announcement could unify Maduro's political base domestically. Today, the Venezuelan president once again denounced U.S. interference in Venezuela's internal affairs, and, in particular, reinforced the anti-colonialist discourse that a large number of Venezuelans support. Meanwhile, the Venezuelan government has ramped up its propaganda campaign. Footage shows militia members, men and women, many of them elderly, running obstacle courses and firing rifles. So where is all this tension heading? Is a U.S. military intervention against Venezuela realistic? According to a report by the International Crisis Group, the Trump administration's military presence in the Caribbean and open admission of CIA operations may be aimed at creating divisions within the Maduro regime and triggering a palace coup or military coup. However, the report emphasizes that the U.S. and anti-Maduro voices might be underestimating the solidity of Chavismo's, Maduro's political movement. Control over power, as happened during the pressure campaign of 2019, the U.S. and the Venezuelan voices pushing for an intervention risk, underestimating the cohesion of the regime. The bonds between civilian authorities and the military are cemented in part by the profits of illicit economies that enrich both corrupt members of government and security forces. Juan Gonzalez, a former senior Latin America advisor at the White House, told CNN's Christiane Amanpour there are multiple armed groups, including cartels, that control different parts of Venezuela. This would complicate any regime change effort and could potentially spill out to other countries. I think any sort of U.S. intervention, especially having boots on the ground, is something that would be a cause célèbre for every illegal armed group that has been fighting in Colombia and other parts of the hemisphere for over half a century. So, it's easier said than done. As former CIA analyst Tim Weiner told CNN, the history of CIA-backed regime change is not a happy one, not just in Latin America, but throughout the world. Fidel Castro survived covert action under presidents from Dwight D. Eisenhower onward and outlived them all, he said, pointing to the most obvious failure. The successes, for example, in Guatemala, ushered in dictatorships and led to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people. Now let's put all the pieces together. Trump openly admitted that he authorized the CIA to operate in Venezuela and said that ground operations are also on the table. Maduro responded by claiming to have documents containing details of CIA operations and announced that the country was equipped with Russian-made missiles, while the U.S. is laying the groundwork for military intervention. By accusing Maduro of narco-terrorism, even its own intelligence assessments show insufficient evidence to establish this connection. The international community is concerned about the escalating tension, while the Venezuelan people are trying to continue their daily lives under the threat of a possible war. And perhaps the most important question is Trump's ultimate goal really to prevent drug trafficking, or to bring about regime change in oil and mineral-rich Venezuela? Harvard Law School professor Jack Goldsmith wrote in a long X post about the questionable legal authority for authorizing CIA action in Venezuela that there is more wiggle room to authorize CIA action than military action, at least under U.S. law. What's interesting here is Trump's decision to talk about it. As he often does when he is breaking law or norms, he acts openly and without shame or concern. Goldsmith wrote, "We will continue to closely follow developments. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications.